Well, well, well. Look who came crawling back. It's me. I came crawling back to Elden Ring Invasions after a little bit of a break. I took a little break and it was nice. It was nice to not play Elden Ring for a little bit because, you know, been through the DLC. We did a bunch of invasions. I made 100 videos. I passed the 100 video mark a couple of videos ago. And there's only so much one man can say about Elden Ring Invasions. You know, sometimes I get to the end of these videos and you know it if you've watched my videos for a while. I just start yapping. I just start yammering. I just start talking about anything at all. And so every now and then I just need to stop playing Elden Ring and Souls games for a minute and do something different. So I've been doing different stuff. I've been playing a lot of Monster Hunter. I've been playing a lot of Destiny 2, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about what is next for Fromsoftware and some predictions and some thoughts that I have about that. I won this fight, by the way. Don't worry about it. I won. I beat them. It was, you know, it was easy. Easy game, easy invasion. So anyways, that's what this video is I'm thinking. I'm in my mind palace and I'm thinking deep thoughts about Souls games and Fromsoftware, because there will be no more Elden Ring, at least as far as anyone can tell. Miyazaki has been very explicit that Shadow of the Erdtree is the end of Elden Ring. He's not interested in making Elden Ring 2. That's not in the cards for him. They're moving on to other stuff. Look at this. They're fighting in the swamp. You can't be afraid of the swamp, young Padawan. You have to embrace the swamp. You gotta live in that swamp. It's the swamp man. He's running around in the swamp. We're done with Elden Ring. It's over. It's Jover. It's never been more Jover. And what a run, right? You know, a few really good years of invasions and co-op and a fantastic DLC, right? For any of the little gripes that I have about Elden Ring as a game, because no game is perfect, but damn, what a game. Incredible, right? And I'm very excited for what is coming next for Fromsoftware. And it seems like they are gearing up for something interesting as well. Just yesterday, actually, they put out on Twitter, they announced some raises for the people who work at Fromsoftware. They're raising the floor that they pay new hires by like 15%, and then they're raising everyone else's salaries by 11% or something like that to compensate for it. Elden Ring is kind of not Elden Ring, Fromsoftware, the company that made Elden Ring, the video game, is in kind of an interesting spot right now, because they were not a huge developer, you know, like they were successful and they had a very dedicated cult following, but their sales kind of capped out with like Dark Souls 3. You know, I think Dark Souls 3 sold like 15 million copies or something, which is nothing to sneeze at, but we're not talking about like Call of Duty numbers, right? Elden Ring pulled Call of Duty numbers, which is crazy. And so now Fromsoftware has all of this prestige and all of this money, and they can throw their weight around a little bit, right? Because they've proven that if you give them resources, they'll make a hit, right? They'll make a generational banger like Elden Ring. So, and that's thankfully being reflected, it seems like, in their business practices as well. Hiring lots of new people, giving people raises, paying new hires more. That's what you should do, right? If you have a big hit like Elden Ring on your hands, is you want to invest in talent. And, you know, no company's perfect, but from what I've seen, it seems like Fromsoftware, they kind of have a good head on their shoulders when it comes to this sort of stuff. They have avoided some of the sort of mass layoffs and things like that have been plaguing the games development industry for a number of years now. So they're putting all of that capital towards something. They're hiring a bunch of new people. They're giving people raises. They're in their winter arc. You guys see about the winter arc? They're locking in, right? They're going to disappear for 4 months. They're going to come back shredded. They're going to have a 6-pack. They're going to have an 8-pack. They're going to be all veiny, you know? But they're going to do something. And here's what I think they're going to do. Obviously, we are going to get another Souls game at some point. And by that, I just mean something that has similar mechanics to Elden Ring, Bloodborne, Dark Souls, right? You roll, you level up, you have iframes, you swing big weapons, there's cool boss fights. It's that sort of type of game that we've come to know and love, that's familiar to us. But I don't think that's going to be the next thing that we get from Fromsoftware. I think instead we're going to see something like Armored Core 6. And I don't mean a new Armored Core game, because I think it's going to be a while before we get another one of those, right? Armored Core 6 was didn't release that long ago, right? It was last year. Huge success, amazing game, and the fact that it was so well received and got so many new people on board with Armored Core, I think is what sort of plays into the strategy that I'm anticipating Fromsoftware will have moving forward. And this is something that Miyazaki has mentioned himself too, is that he likes to kind of handpick directors and producers and talent at Fromsoftware and give them projects to work on. He did that with Masaru Yamamura, right? Yamamura was the combat director on Sekiro. He was the one that kind of played a big role in why Sekiro's combat was so good and so many people loved it. And after that, after Sekiro was, a good sales success, it was a very, very strong critical success for Fromsoftware. People loved it, especially the combat system. After that, Yamamura was given sort of the lead director role on Armored Core 6. And the development of Armored Core 6 was interesting because you can feel the Miyazaki fingerprints on it, right? There are aspects of it and elements that feel Soulsy, for lack of a better term, just certain design choices, some of the storytelling stuff, some of the themes in the story that it touches on. It feels like stuff that Miyazaki has sort of been iterating on since Demon Souls. But it was very distinctly not a Souls game, and that was a huge topic of contention before it came out, right? People kind of like losing their minds over. Some people were saying it was going to be like Armored Souls, and other people were saying that would remove kind of the unique identity that Armored Core had and sort of ignored the way that Armored Core actually was the predecessor to the Souls genre. It came before Souls. It was massively influential on Souls. Anyways, but the way they made Armored Core 6 was that Miyazaki developed the initial scenario and the story and was kind of the director to get it off the ground. And then, as things started rolling, he just handed it over to Masaru Yamamura. And Yamamura delivered a great game that felt unique in its own way, that still had some of those kind of Souls fingerprints on it, but it was something new, right? After a decade of pretty much just getting Souls games from Fromsoftware, we got something new, and it was great because Fromsoftware is a very, very good studio full of very talented people, and they are definitely capable of producing more than just Souls games. So I think what we're going to see next from Fromsoftware is not a Souls game, but something similar to Armored Core 6 in that it's probably something that Miyazaki has had a hand in. He helped it get off the ground, but then he handed over the director chair to someone else. My guess would be some director of something in Elden Ring, right? Take your pick. A lead designer of something, somebody who made something about Elden Ring that Miyazaki thought was impressive. He liked their leadership skills or how they were able to deliver results in a certain area, and he picked this person and said, hey, I want you to make us a game. And so we're gonna get something that is not Souls, but something that feels a little bit like Souls, but it's not, and it's different. And I know that's incredibly vague, but I think that that's kind of where Fromsoftware is heading as a company. Miyazaki has mentioned this in interviews before, that he wants them to be working on multiple games at a time. He wants them to scale up as a studio. That's kind of his vision, is that they're not going to just be working on one game for several years, or maybe a couple of overlapping games, but they're releasing more games quicker. They are, we're going to get stuff, instead of having, a several year gap between Souls games, We'll still probably have a gap between like the Miyazaki directed Souls games that we love, but in between those, we're going to have smaller projects that are different and directed by other people. So with that in mind, this is kind of what I would like to see coming up next. Also, this is me getting some revenge on those people who I totally won against the first time. So you wouldn't even call it revenge because I didn't lose. But, you know, the run back is always appreciated. We love to see it. I've been playing a lot of Monster Hunter recently. I mentioned that kind of at the top of the video. And coming back to Souls from Monster Hunter, the combat in Souls feels so simple. Almost like there's something missing when you play Souls games, because there are combos and things that you can do, but those are mainly like true combos. We talk about true combos in Elden Ring PvP sometimes. That's stuff that like the community kind of stumbled into. It's not really intentional. Something like Monster Hunter, there is an insane variety of like mobility options, combos, ways to position yourself when you're in these fights. And I would be interested to see Fromsoftware's take on something that was more combat forward, like Monster Hunter is. Do away with the, you know, the traditional RPG elements of gaining experience and leveling up and picking your stats. You know, in Monster Hunter, you don't have stats. You level up your gear, you pick your weapon, you apply buffs to yourself, but it's all about the combat, and it's all about, you know, making a specific build that can take on these challenges without the use of stats or things like that. I think that that would be fascinating. And we saw a little bit of that with Armored Core 6, right? Armored Core 6 does not have RPG elements really as we kind of know them from the Souls games. It's all about the build that you have with your mech and the things that you're willing to try out. And so I think that that would be really cool. I would love to also see something potentially like the Chalice dungeons in Bloodborne. I was talking about this on stream a couple of days ago. The Chalice dungeons were such a cool way for people who were really interested in like getting the most juice out of their weapons. It was optional content that like if you really wanted to dive into it and spend a couple of hours, you could make a weapon that could really outclass anything else. Heavily customizable, lots of different directions you could take it. In a game like Elden Ring, when you do invasions, you're just using the same weapons as everybody else, right? As long as you've leveled them up to max level or whatever, like you're basically just using the same thing as other people. That wasn't the case in in Bloodborne PvP, right? You really could, if you wanted to, customize a weapon kind of to fit your specific needs as an invader. And I just loved the blood gem system. I loved the Chalice dungeons. I loved blood gems. I loved the way that that whole system worked in Bloodborne. And I would like to see something similar to that in another game. Like there's this optional side content that you can do to really juice your weapon if you're interested in it. You can totally beat the game without ever touching it. It's not mandatory. It's not necessary. But for people like me who love spreadsheets and numbers and who are big nerds, who really want to, like, you know, invade in optimal conditions or whatever, I think that would be super fun. So something like Chalice Dungeons or the Blood Gem system, it's this little branch that they never followed, right? Most of their other Souls games have followed pretty much similar upgrade systems. Bloodborne was different and interesting, and they haven't gone back to it since, really, and I would like to see them visit it again. I think that we are going to see an announcement of something in December at the Game Awards. I've crunched the numbers on this, actually, and it kind of fits, right? The distance between major releases that Fromsoftware puts out and big announcements of upcoming projects is usually around like 7 or 8 months, you know? And they like to release stuff in spring or summer and then announce new projects in the winter. They followed this pattern for a number of different games before, and so I would put money on it, right? We're going to see some sort of announcement from them at the Game Awards in December, and possibly a new game coming out in 2025, but it is not going to be a Miyazaki game, it's not going to be a Souls game, it's going to be something different. All right, thanks for watching.